All right, guys, quick video on Bitcoin. I want to give you my take on what I think is most likely to happen next. Now, keep in mind, I do not know what's going to happen next. Anybody who gets on here and tells you with 100% certainty that they know what's going to happen next after some extreme volatility like this is just straight up lying to you. When you have extreme volatility, there's a lot of dust that needs to settle, and there's a lot of scrambling in the market by various market participants to take positions, get rid of positions, and that leads to some follow-up consolidation, right? More often than not. So I do think that given how oversold Bitcoin is here, and we saw just an absolute collapse from our trend line, still unconfirmed whether or not that was from Elon or SpaceX selling a big chunk of Bitcoin or all of their Bitcoin from their balance sheet. We'll see. But I think it's important to note what happens in other large capitulation events. So first of all, you usually get your dead cat bounce, right? And then you get a follow up retest of, a lot of times it's not the absolute bottom of the capitulation, but it's pretty close. So this was the FTX collapse. And this was a massive liquidation, massive drawdown, 27%. But I believe in terms of being oversold, this event so far has been larger. So it's been a 13% collapse, but in terms of how oversold we are on the 4 hour, it's about as bad as it's ever been. So historically, especially with how many liquidations we've seen, historically, you'd say this is a very likely candidate for some sort of a local bottom or very close to it. So we do have this channel kind of forming here of support, and I do want to go back and give some other examples of these massive liquidations. You can get this event where you just can continue to capitulate further if there's just no buys coming in, and essentially even once you do find the bottom, right, you get your dead cat bounce and then you come back down and retest. So this is just a very frequent pattern. I'll give you maybe another example or two. Back when I believe this was, well, when Elon bought his Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken, right? You get this large capitulation and you get a retest or two, right? You get a large capitulation, you get a retest over here, right? Dead cat bounce, and then a retest. So just because the low may be in for Bitcoin, just because this wick may end up being the low for Bitcoin, I think there's a really strong argument or a really strong chance that that is the low. What we want to be aware of is the chance that this comes back down to kind of retest this level and find some steady support. Now, this green margin pressure level, this 4x long margin pressure level, is a pretty good candidate for where we could find some support here coming back in, and then we see some consolidation, right, and then start moving back up. Maybe test some of these levels where we would expect some resistance on the way back up. My opinion, though, is more than likely we come down to 25.4. Right, that's where we've seen some support in the past. It's also our 4x short margin pressure level, and it's essentially the level that's closest to where our wick was, where the bleeding stopped, where the liquidation stopped. So you can see even right now we are getting a small bounce here at this 4x long margin pressure level, and what that essentially means is it's the point at which you can start using leverage as price moves down below that 4x long margin pressure level. It's the point at which you can maintain a liquidation point below this local low, right? And so you can go long on 4x leverage and maintain a liquidation point below this local low. So the incentives shift to start buying. The risk reward essentially gets better for buying on 4x leverage. Now down here, this is where the shorts from 31.8, right, or the shorts that are trying to hide their liquidation points above 31.8, you can no longer short as price moves below this level. You can no longer short on 4x leverage and hide a liquidation point below there. So that ends up coming in as support, and you do see the structural support around this region anyways, very close to our previous range highs, right? So my base case right now is honestly just to be careful here. We did get the Ethereum ETF futures ETF news yesterday, which did cause a pretty large bounce. However, I believe that's still unconfirmed. It's not a confirmed headline. And then the other thing was we were expecting the Grayscale case resolution to potentially come out today, and that did not come out. So we could be in for a little bit more of a bleed down to fill in this wick. And that's probably my base case. And I'm probably a buyer down here for a short-term scalp. Otherwise, where we really start to see a lot of support is running all of these stops into all of these big margin pressure levels, right? Where we have all of this volume, our previous range highs. This is where I truly believe if we see further downside, that's where your local bottom comes in, and we at least get a strong bounce out of that region. But for right now, I do think this is likely the low. If we break down below this 4x margin pressure level, then we're just looking to trade it down to 24K or so. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please do like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow on Twitter. And if you want access to these indicators to build out these charts, head over to Sistine.ai. Also check out the Research Hub. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Peace.